the start of the season, one rookie was announced. That was Zhou. Most people's opinion of this rookie was that he's a pay driver, he's not good, and he shouldn't be in F1. Now I'm here to tell you differently that the guy proved a lot of people wrong while joining F1. So when the season started, I was part of this majority, I would say, that did not really like Guanyu joining F1 because I thought there were other drivers that would deserve it. He joined Alfa Romeo, the team, with Valtteri Bottas being teammates this year, and actually came and competed with somebody that was actually competitive against Lewis Hamilton. Now, obviously he was competitive against Lewis Hamilton in an extremely fast car, but it shows the skill level that Bottas really has and the skill that Zhou actually has. Now, throughout the season, Zhou hasn't scored many points, but he has proven that he belongs to be on the grid. What was one common thing that we had in 2021 with the rookies that wasn't common this year with one rookie that we had? Crashes. Yuki Tsunoda crashed a bunch. Mick Schumacher crashed a bunch. Mazepin spin a bunch. So I mean, like, it was just a crash heaven for the rookies, and you could tell that none of them were really prepared to be in that position. Obviously, Mick and both Yuki developed into better drivers into 2022, but I would say that Guanyu had the better season over Mick and Yuki Tsunoda. Now, considering they have 2 years on him, it's interesting to me because I actually have became a big fan of Guanyu over the season and really like the way that he drives. Now, looking at his totals and the points that he scored throughout the season, he scored 3 times. Now, that's not a lot, but let's talk about the bad luck that he's had. Now, he scored in Bahrain. He was 10th in Bahrain. That's his first race ever, and he scored. The car had a clutch problem in the very beginning of the race and didn't allow for Zhou to actually have a good start. But what did Zhou do? He came back, fought back, and ended up getting 10th place over a lot of other cars that were probably faster behind them. Now that's a big deal to say. He kept Mick Schumacher back, who, Kevin Magnussen, was 5th place. So I mean, tells you where that Haas car was. Now, Saudi was 11th, Australia was 11th. Extremely close in the points, kept up for most of the race, didn't crash. Now, Imola was the one race that ended up actually being his first type of kind of incident. But guess what? It was not his fault. I would definitely say this was more on Gasly, and Gasly ended up causing this incident in a turn that isn't really possible for overtaking, but Gasly was ambitious, went for the overtake, did not happen. Now, from this point on, this is where we saw Zhou have a lot of, or Guanyu. This is where we saw Guanyu have a lot of bad luck. Miami retired, Spain retired, Baku retired. Now, the one thing that's common within these 3 races, with the exception of Spain, was he was in the points. He was fighting the whole entire race. He was being adamant, and especially in Baku. When I was watching Baku, I think that really showed me how good of a driver Guanyu really is. And then the radio announcement came and said that the guy had to retire. He was pissed, couldn't believe it. Within 4 races, the only one being Monaco that he didn't retire in, within 4 races, the past 4 races, he retired 3 times. 3 times. This guy's bad luck would not stop there. Britain was another retirement, and Singapore was another retirement because Latifi decided to do a Latifi. Now, through the rest of the season, that Alfa Romeo car fell in pace. It wasn't the same type of Alfa Romeo car that we had when Bottas got a 5th place, when Bottas was killing it in Imola, Miami, Bahrain, in Australia. It was not the exact same car. Zhou was battling with a car that wasn't as competitive as the rest of the field. Now, another insane performance that he had that I feel like is extremely underrated, and a car that probably shouldn't have been at 10th place, was Monza. He was fighting for the points that whole entire race, ended up getting 10th, took it over Mick and a couple others that were back there. Now, that was with the help of Daniel Ricciardo's retirement, but he was catching others too. In an Alfa Romeo car that's extremely draggy, wasn't the best on straights, is impressive to see. But one of the performances that I really, really loved to watch, that probably won't even be talked about because he wasn't in the points here, was Abu Dhabi. He fought in the Alfa Romeo car that couldn't even get out of Q1. Beat Bottas in qualifying, but still was not a competitive car at Abu Dhabi because of the 2 straights. It's a draggy car. The technical grip wasn't that great. He ended up finishing 12th place and fighting with both Albon and catching Vettel almost to catch up to that 10th place that Vettel ended up securing. He fought with Vettel, so did Bottas, to keep him back to actually keep that 6th place. He played a big part in that very ending, and I honestly deserved the contract that he got this year. It was such a difference to see how he came into the year and his perception and what people perceive him as now. Now, Bottas sees him as a great friend, as a teammate, as a driver that he really enjoys driving with. He said this was the most enjoyable season for him. I mean, that has to do some part, I guess, with the teammate, right? Zhou seems like that type of nice guy, the guy that can actually race correctly. He can pull off some slick moves. I mean, like, I'll put it up. The nice overtake that he had on Albon, the only switchback that was really done there, the one time in the race, he pulled it off. It was a beautiful move. There were other performances where Zhou really was performing. He was fighting with the midfield the whole entire year. He had a very impressive 2022, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. Now, of course, this guy was Rookie of the Year because he's a beast. The only rookie, but he's a beast. Number 24 for Kobe. I gotta love that too. I'm a basketball fan myself, so seeing a Kobe number, you know this guy's gonna come in and be awesome under pressure. It's exactly what he did. He only had one actual crash this whole entire year, and that was in a sprint race in Imola. That was it. He kept himself clean. He didn't actually have any for real retirements, except for the one, I guess if you count Singapore, but that was completely on Latifi. That just closed the door on Zhou. So, look, make it of it what you think. But he did exactly what was asked of him in his rookie season. Now, I know going more into depth, this isn't the type of driver that typically is talked about in his rookie season. Like, you have a Lewis Hamilton rookie season, you have a Charles Leclerc rookie season, you have a whatever. The list goes on and on about rookies that were amazing in their first season. But this is a driver that I genuinely think can compete with 90% of the field just throughout time and given more time to actually learn about these cars and be in a faster car. If we had the Guanyu Zhou that we had in the second half of the season, in the first half of the season, I would actually say that him and Bottas would be very close. He was out-qualifying Bottas for most of the second half of the season, and the only times he really didn't make the points count was when the car was either retiring or it was the beginning of the season. Now, I mean, if you look at it, Australia and both Saudi were 11th and 11th. That's extremely close to points. And the only person that actually beat him in Australia was Alex Albon on that insane strategy. So, like I said, you can look into it however you'd like to, but that's just how it was. I hope that 2023 is different. I'm glad to see this guy actually signed on, and I'm happy that we get to have another season of this driver. Now, speaking about performances, the reason why I think I'm making this video is because he was so perceived in the beginning of the year as this like bad driver and somebody that doesn't deserve to be in Formula One. Well, I think it's different. I think if you look at it, Latifi probably didn't deserve to be in F1, but he was, and he had his shots. Now, in my opinion, Guanyu Zhou is a different type of driver and has already showed more in his first year than Latifi has in the past 3 years. He's already shown more than Mick Schumacher, who I really love. I love Mick, but Mick in the 2 years that he's been in the sport has shown way less than Guanyu Zhou has. Now, wherever they might be competitive next year, I'm happy to see him on the grid, and as a rookie season, he deserved to be named as a good driver. And I'm excited to see where Guanyu Zhou goes from this. And I'm excited to see what you guys actually say about Guanyu Zhou. It's not a driver that's really talked about too much in the grid, but should be talked about more because I think he's good. I think he's very good, and I think we'll see him be even more competitive next year. You guys tell me your thoughts. Do you think he's deserving to be in the sport? Do you think he deserves to be Rookie of the Year? Obviously. But tell me what you guys think. Please leave a like, subscribe. That would mean the world, and peace.